welcome to the deep dive. So today we are pulling from this really fun mix of local gardening notes, some botanical journals, and honestly a highly specific text message from a stressed out parent.
Always the best sources, right?
Oh, totally. And our mission today is to unpack this wonderfully rebellious spring garden rescue. It's by these two boys, Kesser and Steen, and they're basically determined to save some spring bulbs for the wild bees.
Yeah, and the whole thing kicks off in Aunt Green's yard. So she has this hedge that just grew way out of control, and it's casting her beautiful Scilla flowers into, like, really deep shade.
Right, which is a problem for her, but not really the bees.
Exactly. I mean, wild bees navigate by smell and UV light, so they can find those shaded flowers totally fine. But Aunt Green, she actually wants to see the blooms she planted.
Fair enough. I want to see them too.
Right. So she tasks the boys with moving them to a better spot. But there's a catch. They have to do this without stepping on all the emerging tulips that are popping up around them.
Wait, hang on a second. Digging up bulbs in the middle of spring. I mean, every gardening manual says that's a total disaster.
Oh, it's usually a terrible idea.
Right, because aren't they actively pushing up leaves and exhausting their energy reserves right now? Like, if you sever the root system, you basically cut off their ability to recharge.
You do. It's a huge biological stress. That's precisely why moving them now breaks. Like all the traditional rules, the plant is incredibly vulnerable.
So shouldn't they just wait until fall when the plant is dormant?
Normally, yes. But a springtime extraction can actually work if you bypass that shock mechanism.
Okay, how do you do that?
Well, the boys don't dig up bare bulbs. They use a garden fork to lift an entire chunk of soil, so it's like a tuft, right, pulled up almost like a ponytail.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, by keeping the root mass embedded in its original dirt, the plant barely even registers that its environment just shifted. Though, crucially, they did have to finish their homework before attempting any of this.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Priorities first, right?
Always.
So before they move these scillas, we should probably look at what they actually are. Because it's a genus of about 90 bulb species across Eurasia and Africa.
Yeah, and we usually picture those vibrant blue flowers, but they can be white, pink, or even violet.
Right, but recently the African varieties went through this massive taxonomic upheaval. It was like a botanical identity crisis.
It really was. That's the fascinating part. So the popular houseplant Scilla violacea was actually reclassified into an entirely different genus. It became Lettiboria socialis.
Wow. So they just completely changed his name.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, for decades, botanists categorized plants mostly by morphology. If the petals and bulbs looked like a Scilla, well, it was filed as a Scilla.
But then genetic sequencing completely upended that, right?
Exactly. Once scientists actually looked at the DNA markers, they realized that the physical resemblance was just convergent evolution.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So these African and Eurasian plants adapted to similar environments by developing similar traits, but they actually have completely different evolutionary lineages.
So it's basically like finding out your cousin is actually just a stranger who happens to wear the exact same glasses as you.
Yes, that's a perfect way to visualize it. So anyway, after extracting these genetically complex little plants, the boys haul a bucket of the bulbs home.
But they hit a pretty major aesthetic roadblock, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Steen's mom. She was not leaving this to chance. She sent them a strict layout plan.
Right, because she didn't want the lawn looking like, wait, I have the quote here, a bucket of spilled, run-over recycled crayons.
Which is such a funny image, but also a completely valid fear.
Especially considering Steen's backup plan. I mean, he seriously considered just throwing the bulbs randomly across the grass and using a literal power drill to bore holes wherever they landed.
I mean, the power drill method has a certain chaotic efficiency to it, I guess.
It's definitely creative.
But digging a proper trench is much better for root establishment. So they end up digging shallow trenches, like 5 to 10 centimeters deep, tuck the undisturbed soil tufts in, and then they seal the deal with water and homemade compost.
And that nutrient-rich compost really helps the bulbs recover from, whatever minimal transplant shock they did actually experience.
Exactly.
So bringing this all together, what does this actually mean for you listening right now?
Well, I think it's a great reminder that helping out nature, like feeding those early emerging wild bees, it doesn't always require following the strict gardening rule book.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It proves that actionable conservation in your own backyard can be, well, a little messy, but still highly effective.
Absolutely. Sometimes a garden fork, a clever biological workaround, and just good intentions get the job done. And hey, if you want to keep tracking Kesser and Steen's wildly creative nature projects, make sure you subscribe to the deep dive so you don't miss future updates.
Yeah, definitely subscribe. But before you go, consider this.
Yeah, if scientists can just sequence some DNA and suddenly reclassify well-known plants like the African Scilla literally overnight, well, what other established facts in your own backyard are just waiting to have their entire identities rewritten?